Hey Southbridge, Pastor Dave here. I'm a pastor here in Hoboken, New Jersey. I actually used to be Pastor John's youth pastor when he was your age, and so it is an honor and a privilege to be able to come and share with you today and share a little bit of a devotional with you guys. We're going to be talking a little bit about something I think everybody's dealing with these days in their lives, and it's something that I know I've been dealing with a lot lately, and I'm sure you have as well, and that's anxiety and worry. And what do we do with it, and how do we handle it? You know, anxiety and worry are something that everybody faces, and especially now. And I feel like your generation is facing it way more than my generation did when I was your age, and even John's generation did when he was your age. You know, it feels like every day we turn on the news, there's something crazier happening, and something bigger happening, and something new is challenging us. And so what do we do with our worries and our anxieties? You know, Jesus has a lot to say about it, and Jesus talks a lot about anxiety and worry in scriptures, but there's one place where he talks about it, and that's in that's in the Sermon on the Mount. We'll let the helicopter pass for a second. The joys of being in Hoboken. It's loud. All right, but anyway, beautiful view of New York City behind me. But anyway, in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew writes and gives us the longest discourse of Jesus' teaching, right? This is the longest continuous discourse in the Sermon on the Mount. But Jesus talks about it. In verse 25, he says, "Therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or worry about your body, what you will wear. Isn't life more than food, and the body more than clothing?" You know, and then he goes on in verse 27, "Can any one of you add a moment to his lifespan by worrying? And why do you worry about clothes?" And all these, you know, he talks about worry and anxiety. I think the first thing we need to understand is that Jesus never tells us not to worry. He tells us not to obsess over our worries and our anxieties. He tells us not to be wrapped up so much in them that they take over our whole life and our whole day. We're going to worry, we're going to have anxiety, but it's what we do with that worry and anxiety. And I think there's 3 steps that we can use and follow to help us process our anxieties. First step is to recognize your anxiety. What are you anxious about? I know for some of you, you know, school is a big deal. And so you're anxious about my grades and classes that you're going to take, and getting into the right college, and what are you going to major in, and what's your career going to be, and it just continues. And then for some of you, maybe it's sports. Am I going to make the team this year? Am I going to perform well? Am I going to do that? You know, all these things. Some of you, it might be social aspects, it might be life, you know, family issues, it could be all kinds of things. And then you throw on top of it this pandemic that we're all dealing with still. You look at the things that are now going on in Afghanistan and around the world, and the challenges and the political climate that we live in. And that can cause us to start to worry and have anxiety and challenges. So what do we do with them? So first step is to recognize your anxiety. What are you anxious about? What's driving your anxiety in your life? What's driving the worry in you? And once we recognize it, then we can take the next step and recognize what it's rooted in. Recognize what's my anxiety rooted in. So here, I'm going to give you a really quick, amazing counseling session, and I'm not going to charge you for it this time. All right, so here, check it out. So what's your anxiety rooted? This is what they're going to ask you about. This is what they're going to challenge you with. When you go to a counselor, they say, okay, what are you anxious about? So for some of you, maybe it's, let's say, getting into the right school. Or your grades. Let's start there. Your grades. I need to get good grades. I need to be in the right classes and get the good grades. Okay, why? Well, because my parents expect me to get this grade. Or because I want to get into this college, and if I get into this college, then I can have this major, and if I get this major, then I can have this career, and then if I have this career, then I have this, I will make this kind of money, and then I will have this security, and I will have, right? And so where's that all coming from? You want to get good grades because as you walk the process, now your security is in getting good grades to get into the right college, to get the right major, to get the right job, so you have money in your bank account. That's what your anxiety is rooted in, right? And so, like, I look at it, you know, things that I don't face anxiety and worry in a heavy way. My wife does, and we walk through it a lot together. And so, you know, what's her anxiety rooted in? And I know that I could say something to her and cause her to go down a rabbit trail, and I need to bring her back to where it's at. And so anxiety and worry We need to figure out what it's rooted in. So the step one is to recognize your anxiety. Step two is to see what your anxiety is rooted in. And then step three is to recognize what Jesus and God says about those roots, right? Your security. We're just going to focus in on that. And I'm going to wrap up here really quickly. But recognize what God says about that, right? So recognize your anxiety, figure out what it's rooted in, and then see what Jesus says about that. And Jesus tells us that like I said before, he doesn't tell us that we shouldn't be anxious and worry, but where are we taking those anxious feelings and those worrying thoughts to? Take them to Jesus, right? And so if we look at our security, like let's say financial security, education security, athletic security, whatever it is that you're struggling with, like let's say, like I said, it's security. God is our security. My bank account could hit zero in an hour. All of my investments, all my stuff could be gone in no time. Is that gonna, like, that's not where my security should be. My security should be in God, because God is the one that's gonna provide. God is the one that's gonna walk me through that. God is the one that's always gonna be there, is faithful to be there at all times. And so listen, there's a lot of things going on, like I said, in this world. There's a lot of challenges that we are facing, anxieties and worries that we are facing, and we need to recognize what we're anxious about. We need to see what it's rooted in, and then take it to the Lord and see what his word says about our anxious feelings. Again, it's not saying that you should never worry and never be anxious. God is big enough to handle those anxious feelings and those worrying thoughts. But don't keep them bottled up inside. Take them to him and allow him to walk you through what he is teaching you and showing you. Yeah, it's been great talking with you guys. I hope to see you guys again soon and to be able to do this again. But have a great day, a great rest of your summer. God bless.